we had previewed the vote that was going to take place in the Senate, where the Democrats were attempting to preemptively extend tax cuts for the first $250,000 a couple may earn, and allow for the other Bush tax cuts to expire come 2013 when they are set to sunset, as per the first initial provisions in the Bush tax cuts and then the extension of the Bush tax cuts. We anticipated that the Republicans would filibuster the measure. However, I think it was yesterday morning, we had announced that Mitch McConnell, Catherine Harris's favorite beanbag, would filibuster, and then he apparently said we're going to allow for a vote. There were 2 votes taken yesterday. The first was a Senate Republican bill to extend all of the Bush tax cuts for 1 year. The measure was defeated 45-54. Mark Pryor, Democrat from Arkansas, voted with the Republicans. Senators Scott Brown, I'm worried about Elizabeth Warren Brown, apparently, from Massachusetts, voted against it. Susan Collins, Republican from Maine, also voted against it with the Democrats. The Democrats then brought up their bill, which was, again, to extend the Bush tax cuts only to the first $250,000 that is earned by a couple. If you don't earn $250,000, you still have those tax cuts. That's an important distinction to make because apparently even the Washington Post can't seem to report it properly. It's not for people who make over anything less than $250,000. It's for everybody on their first $250,000. That's the way marginal tax rates work. And that bill passed 51-48. Now, there's now the House will take up their own bill. They are sure to extend the Bush tax cuts. They will attempt to refute the validity of that vote because any type of taxing bills must originate in the House. However, it is possible they won't. It's possible it could go to conference and then it would be hammered out in conference. Highly unlikely. So you have to ask yourself at this point, why in the world would Mitch McConnell want to take this vote, which shows just how determined Republicans are in providing tax cuts for people who make over $250,000, not just for people who make over $250,000, but for all the money they make over that. Tax cuts on the millions of dollars that people make above $250,000. And the only answer you can come up with is that they actually think this is helpful to them. Despite the fact that we see all the polling that says the majority of Americans disagree with that tax policy, it's because they think it's more valuable for them to go back to their moneyed constituencies and say, look, we're come hell or high water, we are in your corner. And so fascinating that the only time we actually get a true majority vote, both sides think that they have won. Now, of course, it's all political posturing, but that's what happens in politics. People posture in a political manner. Now, I want to remind you, though, that because the extension of these tax cuts apply to the first $250,000, whether you make $25 million a year or whether you make $25,000 a year. And for people, for a family of 4 that makes $25,000 a year, you also will get earned income tax credits, et cetera, et cetera. But the Tax Policy Center estimates that the Senate Democrats bill, as written, would still cut taxes on the top 1% or retain the tax cuts for the top 1%. For anybody, let's say, for instance, you're making $1 million, you'd still save $15,000 on your tax bill. The Republican bill would cut taxes on someone who's making $1 million by more than $75,000. So we're still allowing people. I mean, frankly, I think that all of them. All right, fine. Extend the tax cuts for the first $250,000 for a year if you want, but we've got to just simply go back to, well, not just Clinton marginal tax rates, but Reagan or Eisenhower or Kennedy or just about anybody else that has been president for certainly as long as anybody I know has been alive, although my grandmother is 100. And so I guess back in 1912, you could get away without paying your taxes, particularly if you were a robber baron. So interesting to see how that'll play out as the parties sort of position themselves for the election.